Hey everyone, good evening. Hey Jen, how are you? All right, cameras on please, everyone, cameras. Jen, when exactly is it in the evening? No, it's 5:30. But I always give around 10 minutes for everybody to join, organize everything, drop questions like Mr. Badura already dropped a few questions here, and I addressed that. So we effectively start around 5:40. All right. So, first question, you're going to talk about Violator? How we start? Right before Thanksgiving? Seriously. Daniela, you're too funny. I swear to God, that looks so comfortable. I'm going to try that. All right. So, question from Mr. Bador to start. And if you guys have questions, drop them now before we start. First question is, when is a violator of license laws considered a repeat offender? Third time. Can we go over this? So, it doesn't matter. So, the state of New Jersey, it doesn't matter what type of violation it is. It's not that you have to repeat the same violation, but at the third time, you consider the repeat offender, and that's, if you remember, that's when they can even revoke your license altogether because you're a repeat offender. All right, so let me open it up for you. Here. Does it tell you there the page so I can go there? Oh, disciplinary procedures. All right. No, Jen, we're not on 17. It's just 17, the question from, it's the question that he picked out of the review questions at the end of the chapter. That's the question that he picked to address. He understood the other ones, but then 17 is one of the questions that he has. All right, disciplinary. So right here. You put me the page 441, okay. Six. So right here, under penalties, they can deny further issuance of real estate license to a repeat, and they're clear about that. It's at the third time offender. So, and this is whether it's the same offense or a different regulation. If you commit 3 offenses against public policy, obviously, then you are considered a repeat offender, and you will might have your license revoked altogether, like never be able to get your license from there on, right? So that's the Real Estate Commission. That's their the way they see it. Again, guys, if you have questions, drop them now. I know, repeat to use twice, but like the first one could be put you on probation. The second could be, okay, now you're getting suspended or temporarily revoked. If you keep on insisting, then that's it. Third time's a charm. You never heard that? Third time's a charm. So third time, you're done. Okay? Almost like the one that George Bush likes to say all the time. Fool me once, shame on me, on you, right? Fool me twice, shame on me, fool me. And so you get that. That's what it is. The third time is a charm. Hopefully I did not offend any Bush supporters. All right, the other question was for a deceptive act to be considered an actual consumer fraud, an act must involve A, deliberate lying, misstate the material fact, C, concern a resale property, or D, cause an ascertainable loss. Okay, be considered a deceptive act, and you're asking if C would work as well. Think about it before I answer. Why would C work? I think you typed something there. Let me see. I'm considering all of them as an answer, right? Okay. You never heard the term no harm, no foul? Okay. So in terms of consumer fraud, okay, actionable, like we'll take action against you, right? Take action against you. In order for action to happen in terms of consumer fraud, for people to, and this is true with everything. You can go, this is constitutional. You have criminal and civil law, and for anything to exist, like in terms of court, for you to bring me to court, there has to be some sort of loss. If there's no loss, no harm, no foul. Right? And guys, I don't want you to do this, but this is why a lot of cases in like motor vehicle cases get dismissed. Right? Tickets and red light, traffic cameras, whatever, they get dismissed because who's at a loss? The camera? Is it the police officer? Who is it, the state? Who took the loss? Right? Constitution says clearly there has to be an injured party. If there's no injured party, there's no claim. Here's the same thing. I can deliberately lie, but if that deliberate lie did not affect you, right? So think about it. I'm going to go one by one. Think about it, Ahmed. I'm going to say, hey, it's sunny outside, right? For you guys that are here on the eastern side of the United States, you know, right, that it's not sunny outside, but I'm deliberately lying. How does that affect you, though? What loss did you have with my lie? That's what I'm saying, right? Misstate the material facts. Sometimes it happens where I'm going to say that the roof is 5 years old. Why? Because somebody told me it was 5 years old. I misstated. I misrepresented. I didn't do it on purpose, right? So can I protect myself by saying, hey, sorry, I made a mistake. This is what I was relying on, right? So to be actionable, that has to have some substantial loss. Concern the resale of the property. What is resale? Why not sale? Ah, okay. Why not rental? So you're telling me that in rentals, it's not an actionable fraud, right? And look, a deceptive act to be considered actionable must be concern a resale of the property. Must concern a resale of the property. Again, rentals. if this was not here, loss, right? Maybe I would lean into this if there's no other option. But for an action to exist against somebody else, remember this. There has to be an injured party. Injured party, always. It's constitutional. Injured party. Okay? So we can go back to the statute of frauds. I don't have it open right now in the book, but you can go back to the statute of frauds, and that's what it talks about. Misrepresentation. There has to be a deliberate lie, right? That's part of it, right? Misstating facts could be for the resale of the property, but the major condition to make it actionable is if there was a loss because of these lies, because of this misstatement of material fact. There has to be a loss. Okay? If it's regarding a resale of the property, then we're going to activate the right to consumer fraud protection because of the sale of a property. If it was because of a credit card, if it was because of a rental, if it was because of a car, whatever. We're not talking about real estate. We're talking about consumer fraud. So what activates, right, what makes it actionable, right, is the fact that somebody had an ascertainable, so it's not a $1 loss, right? It's something that really damaged my life. For instance, if you lied to me about the roof being 5 years old, right, you lied to me about the roof being 5 years old, how does that affect me now? What if the roof lasts another 20 years without having to replace? How does that affect me? Do you understand what I'm saying, guys? The lie does not affect, okay? The resale of the property does not affect. The material fact does not affect that I had a loss because of any of these or during one of these. Then we take action. Thumbs up? Great. Did you just send me a message saying, Bruno, shut up, I gotta move forward? Is that what you typed? Okay, let's see what you typed. Oh, okay, all right. These questions are also known as puzzles. Like I'm telling you, look, a few years ago, we had a meeting for the Real Estate Commission, right? And there was like 400 instructors there. One of the things we battled with PSI exams is that the way they put the questions are so tricky. None of these things that we were just going over, none of these things directly affect your conduct of business, right? The way the questions are asked, the way the questions are asked it's not a test of how you're going to conduct business. It's not a test. So I would put it this way, guys. Like being a police officer, right? I would like to know what kind of tests do they give to them, right? Hey, Cheryl. I'd like to know what kind of tests do they give them. Are tests like this, right? Stuff like this. Trick them, right? How is that going to make their practice better? How is that going to make a police officer better to pass an exam based on this? It doesn't. It's the constant reevaluation of this person's conduct that will make them better, right? It's the active duty changes because there's textbook, which is, guys, what we're going through, and then there's real life action. And when you become real estate, look, I was having this conversation with somebody earlier that, wow, I can't believe the things, Bruno, that you taught me in class, right? I can't believe that in real life, people just ignore half of it, right? Once you're in the business, you'll realize that a lot of people either don't know, right? Don't care, or intentionally do it for their own personal gain, or all of the above. I mean, those are the options for that type of people. You guys understand? In real life, everything's game, unfortunately, until you get caught, until somebody actually loses, right? You can keep on lying, not a problem, until somebody actually loses. And once that person loses, there's a lawsuit. That's the problem, right? So again, gotta keep on going. You're welcome. Sorry, just one second. I'm sorry, but I needed to interrupt for this reason. So you guys understand the kind of person that I am. Student of mine just failed by 2 points. Okay? So did not pass the exam by 2 points and is telling me, so sad right now, like this is unbelievable, right? I had to stop to say no, because this person's been trying for years now. There was a stop time and now back at it. Guys, never give up. She's only 2 points away. A week ago, she was 15 points away. And a year ago, she was no points away. Like she was like 0 points at all. Right? So there's an evolution. Don't give up. If you're that close, now's the time to keep pushing forward. Okay? So just letting you know, and I'm sorry, I just stopped so I can make sure I don't lose the train while people are feeling down. It's the time to bring them up. All right? So that close. All right. Joel also shared a question. Joel, I see your question here, so let's go back to that before I start the class. A single homeowner has $300,000 profit from the sale of her home where she has lived for the past 18 years. The taxable portion of the gain would be, and Joel chose $300,000 as an answer. So if you guys remember under taxation, right, the chapter for taxation, and also in investment chapter 18, it mentions that there's investments and there's home ownership. Home ownership is not an investment. Home ownership is where you live. It says here the qualifiers of this question, guys, and make sure you pay attention. The qualifiers of these question are single, so one, homeowner. So this is where they live. State of New Jersey, like most states, and federal law, exempt. So IRS and state taxation exempt most people up to $250,000 if they're single, or up to $500,000 if they're married filing jointly. So in this scenario, reading the question again real quick, a single homeowner has a $300,000 profit from the sale of her home where she has lived for the past 18 years. Okay? The taxable portion would be what? If they're single homeowners, then the exemption, if they're one, the exemption is up to $250,000. So the correct answer would be $50,000, which is the difference. So profit was 300. Profit minus exemption. Okay? $50,000 taxable. If it said a couple filing jointly, for instance, if it said a couple, Joel, then the taxable would be zero because the exemption was $500,000. So you're actually positive on this. You guys understand? So the taxable event on a single homeowner is up to $250,000 exemption. So if they made the sale was $500,000, how much would they pay here? Okay, $250,000. Okay, $250,000 would be the exemption. So they would still have to pay taxes on $250,000. That's what it is. All right. So the first $250,000 exempt. If they're married filing jointly, the exemption is $500,000. So the answer is 0. Keywords. Gotta remember keywords. Single, 1. Homeowner, that's where I live. If it said investor, or if it said investment property, then this does not apply. This exemption does not apply for investments. The only thing we can do in investments is defer or delay. So that's the 1031 exchange, right? Defer or delay the taxes. Mr. Brother is asking, how often can you file for the extension? Every 2 years. Okay? Every 2 years. But if you bought this property 2 years ago, right? And now you moved to a new property, right? you can stay in this new property for 3 years before you sell the first property. The exemption still applies. So you can do this every 2 years, but you must have lived there at least 2 out of the previous 5 years. So do you have to sell right away in order to get the exemption? No. This has to be within 5 years of purchase of living there for at least 2 years. So at least 5 years there. All right. Let me remove this. All right. Next. Go over this chapter. All right. Again, a lot of this stuff, just a quick reminder, the last day of this week, right? Then we meet again on Monday for math, right? So yes, I know you guys are sad and YouTubers are sad. We're going to have 4 days off, right? I know you're sad. So am I, very sad. But yeah, 4 days off. Real quick, chapter 29, chapter 30, even though they're longer chapters, to be able to complete them all today, right? We should be able to. If not, I'm not very upset at it because this is a very important chapter, fair housing laws. The thing I want to point out, guys, is that you try to remember, that we talked about all this, or 90% of what we're going to say, we talked about all this in the national portion of this exam. Fair housing laws apply to every state. It's just that New Jersey created their own New Jersey law against discrimination, which is stronger than the federal law. It doesn't go against federal law, it's just stronger than federal law. All right, so pay attention to what we're going to go over. All right. Jen says, I'm sad. Sorry, here's the good news, guys. You can always go to the YouTube channel. And I have playlists. I have a playlist for this version of the book, and I have a playlist for the Dearborn version. So if you're studying through the Dearborn version, this is for the YouTubers, and for you guys, it's this one. But if you have the Dearborn version of the book, I have a playlist of all the chapters there. Just follow it, okay? Jen, as far as asking questions, you can ask questions all day, every day. You know what? 24/7. You can send me questions at 3 o'clock in the morning. I might reply at 5 or 6 or maybe at 12 in the afternoon, right? But you can send me questions at any time. I mean, I did leave it open for you guys. So anytime you have questions, whenever you're studying, send it to me, okay? I've replied to people at 3 o'clock in the morning, so yes. Just do it. Don't stop, okay? All right, back to this. New Jersey housing regulations. We're talking about fair housing. Thanks, Arlene. Appreciate it. We're talking about fair housing laws. And fair housing laws means everybody's entitled to buy a house regardless of their color, religion, national origin, gender, familial status, disability, and race. Very important. So, you guys remember 1866. Tell me you remember this. 1866. What is it all about? Let me know. 1866. Anybody? Don't fight for it. Just one. One person can answer. It's fine. Don't fight for it. Too many people answering at the same time. 1866. You got to remember this right away. Joel says rights. Yeah, I mean, Civil Rights Act, I get it. But about what? Without reading. This is something, guys, you got to have, be able to go like this and answer. Right? You have to. Okay, Lula, I know you're there cooking and all that. You're yelling at the camera. Like, Can't. There's a light, there's glare, so I don't know what you're what you're saying, right? By the way, I'm on my way, okay? Make sure the food is ready. So all right. This whole chapter is about discrimination. So if you're talking about, if your answer is Civil Rights Act or your answer is discrimination, that's not what I'm looking for. Here's what I'm looking for. Linda, thank you. Race. Francesca, thank you. Race. So 1866, you have to automatically associate, guys, race. Okay? Right here. Automatically. Race. Everything is about rights. Everything is about discrimination. Cheryl's cooking as well. Damn, I got too many places to go to. That's it. You guys like the self-invitation? Like, no shame, right? Mr. Quiznos, do we get free sandwiches? All right. Terrible. All right, now, since then, since 1866, other laws have extended the prohibition to include discrimination based on color, religion, national origin, sex, handicap, disability, familial status, gender identity, sexual orientation, marital status, age, and ancestry, right? We have the 1866 law. We have the 1968 where they passed the Fair Housing Law for the first time, right? We have 1974. We have 1988. So they kept on adding more stuff. New Jersey said, hey, let's jump on the bandwagon. We want to have our own law too. So in 1945, they enacted the New Jersey law against discrimination, which was originally for employment, right? But they adapted also for other things like schools, right? For housing, right? One of the things they did is this. Federal law, if you guys remember, federal law only applied for the sale or rental of residential. Jersey says, we're not covering residential only. You cannot discriminate, period. I don't care if it's residential. I don't care if it's commercial. I don't care if it's industrial, recreational, agricultural, whatever. We don't care. All real property is covered under New Jersey law. New Jersey has one of the strongest laws of its kind when it comes to discrimination. Okay? Sorry. All right. So one of the strongest laws of its kind for discrimination. Now, in 2017, the law was once again expanded to include discrimination against individuals who are liable for service in armed forces in the United States, making this designation an additional protected class in housing, lending, employment, public accommodations, and association membership. Protected classes. Look at the difference between the Jersey law and all other laws. Ready? Race, creed, color, national origin, ancestry, nationality, gender, gender identity or expression, marital, civil union, domestic partner status, affection or sexual orientation, familial status, so people under 18, right? Actual or perceived physical or mental disability, including AIDS or HIV-related illnesses, source of lawful income or subsidy used for mortgage or rental payments, and liability for military service. All right? So Jersey covers so many more things than federal law covers. One of the things that Jersey protects against, and this might be a question in the state exam, one of the things that they protect against, and again, might be a question, is if somebody says, I want to rent the other side of my duplex, right? A duplex is a side-by-side to family. I want to rent the other side of my duplex to, I'm a Let's say it's a female wants to rent to another female exclusively. Now, we know we cannot discriminate against gender, right? But there are certain exceptions, right? If you're a woman or if you're a man and you're trying to rent the other side of your duplex, you guys know there's the exemption right now, so you guys know. There's the exemption for certain kinds of housing. So you can restrict it to the same sex, not a problem. Because yes, New Jersey says there's exemptions, right? But only for rentals. Okay? Another question that might be there is regarding somebody, let me go back up. Somebody that's single instead of married cannot discriminate based on marital status. All right, so two potential questions is either marital status, right? Or affection or sexual orientation. So this will be the same type of question. They just choose one or the other usually, right? And then the exemption right here. The exemption, which is renting to somebody of the same gender. But only in owner-occupied duplexes, right here, owner-occupied duplexes, or up and down two families. So ultimately, for two families, whether it's side by side or up and down. If you guys remember from the federal side of it, you could discriminate if it was owner-occupied 1 to 4 family. Remember that? Federal allows you to discriminate on 1 to 4 family. The reason I'm focusing so much on this one is just to let you know. My first exam, I will explain right now. My first exam, right, because I take the exam once in a while, like I just did recently, to see how the virtual thing would go. My first exam years ago, I remember clearly getting stuck. And this is why I'm telling you guys, if you get stuck in the question, right, for more than 30 seconds, you're like, oh, I have to reread. You get stuck. If you did not get the point of the question, skip it. Go to the next one, right? I got stuck for 14 minutes in this question. 14 minutes. Until today, I talk about it. Don't laugh, Mr. Vador. That's evil. Laughing on another person's misfortune, that's evil. That's karma. It's going to come back to you. I'm telling you right now. But 14 minutes. That's why today I can tell you guys what to look out for. Today I can tell you guys that you need to skip questions that are making you struggle. Okay, you would spend 50. That are making you struggle. If you skip questions, I can guarantee you most of the pressure is gone. Because if you skip the long questions or the ones that are tough, and I'm going to tell you the exact question I had, by the way. But if you skip the long questions or the ones that are tough, like math, doesn't matter how good you are, it takes time consuming, put them all the way to the end. You can mark the question. Even on my exam, you can mark the questions, bookmark them, come back later. All right? Skip, move forward. Okay? Simple as that. Now, why? First of all, we're talking about discrimination. And my question was, under state law, when are you allowed to discriminate? First thing that got me stuck was my mom taught me not to discriminate against anybody. Right? I didn't care what the book said. My mom says don't discriminate. And I listened to my mom. Okay? Whatever my mom said was right. That was it, period. Okay? So don't discriminate. And here it is, a question saying, when can you discriminate? And gives me 4 answers, and neither one of them makes sense to me of it's okay to discriminate. Neither one of them made sense to me when I took the test the first time. So, and I made the mistake. This was my question, like question 30 or whatever. I still had a lot of questions to go, and I spent 14 minutes on one. I'm like, that's it. I'm dead. I'm not passing this, right? But anyway, under state law, 4 answers. 2 of them have nothing to do with state or federal, like it would not apply at all. But then 2 of them, very similar. Answer C, as an example, answer C says 1 to 4 family. Okay? Hold on, cops. Can't go one day, huh? All right. So as I was saying, two answers were very similar. One says you are allowed to discriminate on the rental of 1 to 4 family owner occupied. Answer D, so the second answer that could be correct, says you're allowed to discriminate on owner occupied duplexes or up and down 2 family. So these two are very similar because they both say owner occupied. It's just one says 1 to 4 and the other one says it's a 2 family. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, neither. Don't discriminate, period. That's what I was thinking. Right? Anyway, the answer was, because the question was under state law, the answer would have been this right here. This is the answer. If the question was under federal law, when are you allowed to discriminate? Then you would look at the owner-occupied 1 to 4 family. Right? So just like Mr. Rodor said before, these questions are like puzzles. Yes. If you don't break it down, you'll never fit the pieces right. You have to break down the question and understand what's being asked. If it's under state law, this is the exemption. If it's under federal law, if that was a question, right, then it's 1 to 4 family owner occupied. And let me address something else. I had this conversation also. Like I could tell you guys, we talk about these things all day, both experience as a realtor, our experience as students and instructors. My partner and I were talking about this the other day, how people memorize. You guys try to memorize the answers. When you go to the state exam, here's the problem. If you were to read the same question I just told you right now, if you were to read the question, and then you have an answer that says rentals, owner occupied, but then there's another one that says rentals, owner occupied, you would click the first one because your brain said owner occupied. Great. And you would pick the first one, even though there's a second one that's exactly the same, except for the duplex. You guys understand what I'm trying to say? There's a lot of times where your mistake is that you try to memorize the answers, right? And you get there, you're in front of the exam, right? And you're just trying to remember what the answer was. And as soon as something is similar or familiar to you, you go, boom, answer. And you fail. You have to clearly understand the questions. You have to clearly understand the questions, okay? All right, so Jen says she can't hear anything. I don't know if being sarcastic, but can somebody check YouTube and let me know if you can hear me? YouTube, real quick, please do me a favor. Thank you. I just want to be able to tell Jen that it's her, not me. All right, Tara can hear me. Lula says yes. Cheryl says I hear fine. This is a typical, the problem, right? Usually we say the problem is not you, it's me, right? In this case, I can say the problem is not me, it's you. All right. Pedro also confirmed. Francesca says it's her. Okay, I'm telling you, it's her. Anyway. All right. Prohibitions. Do you guys remember blockbusting? Can anybody tell me what blockbusting is? Busting the block? What is blockbusting? Boom. Scaring homeowners to sell. Why, Mr. Badur? Complete the sentence. He's going to go because. The worst type of answer, right? Especially when we ask the kids, why'd you do this? Because? Yes, because of race or discrimination, but how? Why would you be forcing, right, or scaring people to sell? That was my question. Why? Jen says, after refresh, I can hear. Good. That's usually what I do. When I'm in the bathroom, I try to refresh the ear so I can hear a little bit better the next day. Yep. Scaring potential buyers, yes, but why? Come on, guys. Make money the wrong way. Okay, no. All right, so you wrote, okay, let me complete your sentence. Okay, I'm going to complete your sentence. Just remember, in the state exam, you cannot pull a Tom Cruise, okay? You cannot pull a you complete me type of thing. You cannot do that. You have to take the exam by yourself. So right now I'm going to help you guys. It's scaring homeowners to sell because of race, yes, or discrimination, right? But that's because there's a change in population. There's a change. Minority groups are entering the neighborhood, for instance, right? And as a means of discrimination, you go knock on doors and say, hey, this group is moving in, sell now. So yes, we're making money the wrong way because of discrimination on the entry of certain groups into the neighborhood. Okay? So scaring people to sell because these people are coming into the township, for instance, or neighborhood. All right, so New Jersey says, that's federal law, but New Jersey says, well, blockbusting is bad as it is based on federal law. So salespeople, broker salespeople and brokers, we want you to keep records of all your marketing efforts. If you go knock on several doors, right? So more than 3 homeowners in a single block in a single month, if you're advertising to these people, if you're trying to solicit business from these people, keep records. Records of what? Well, we want to know their names, the address, the licensee name, so the homeowners' addresses, licensee name, and the activity. They want to make sure that while you're knocking on doors, you're not skipping a door because of discrimination. They want to know you skipped a door because that was not your marketing. For instance, I market sometimes, or here we market sometimes to people that have expired listings. We market sometimes to people that have lived in the property for more than 7 years, because that's the new average that people will stay in a house. Right? That's the new. It used to be every 5 years the average American household moves. Right? In this case, it's right now 7 years. So we'll market to them to say, hey, it's been 7 years. Not in these words, but it's been 7 years. Do you want to sell? Right? That's pretty much the type of marketing. So you want to prove to the real estate commission that you're not blockbusting because of the change of the neighborhood. Okay? That's blockbusting. Okay? The rest is easy, common. Complaints. Does anybody remember? I'm telling you, this is like reviews. Does anybody remember how long you have to file a complaint with HUD under federal law? Not state law. Do not read what's written there. We're talking about federal law. Does anybody remember how long you have to file a complaint or a lawsuit? There's 2 dates to remember here. One is for complaints. The other one is for lawsuits. Ed, perfect. 2 years for what? It's 2 years, but for what? It's for a lawsuit or for the complaint? I told you not to read, Mr. Badur. This is for Jersey, what you wrote. For complaints, no. All right, so great. Let me go here. The 2-year mark here, when it comes to discrimination, is for a federal lawsuit. Federal lawsuit. Okay? Joel, this is for lawsuits under contracts, for any loss that you had because of a real estate contract, for instance. This is separate. It has nothing to do with discrimination. If you feel that you were discriminated against, you have 2 years to file a lawsuit with federal court. Lawsuits. Complaints, though, with HUD, for the complaint, you have 1 year to file a complaint with HUD, with Housing and Urban Development. Okay? So, these are federal laws. State law says you got 6 months, 180 days to file a complaint. State law, you have 6 months to file a complaint. And that's the reason, guys. That's the reason we keep records, like Mr. Violator wrote here. We're going to keep records of unaccepted offers for 6 months. This is the reason. Just in case there was discrimination, people are entitled to take action and say, hey, I felt discriminated against. Their house was rented or was sold to this person instead of me, even though I equally qualified. For instance, 6 months. If you're found guilty, the director, the division's director, Division Civil Rights Director can order a cease and desist, payment for damages for pain and humiliation, or other penalties based on complaints. Monetary penalties in the amount of $10,000 for first offense, $25,000 for second offense, and $50,000 for third offense are also available. And the offender can appeal the findings within 45 days. So if you feel that you shouldn't be paying any of these fees because you did not discriminate, you got 45 days to appeal or cry about that decision. If you willfully violate the order, then you're going to be fined up to $500. Not bad. But you could also be in prison up to 1 year. I don't know how $500 in 1 year can... Wait, I'm like... It's one or the other, right? Doesn't make sense. Anti-discrimination poster. If you guys remember, federal law requires us to have a poster about equal rights. Okay? State law also requires us to have one. In fact, they even have penalties, sanctions for you not having a poster. So like I said, under federal law, I'm going to tell you again. If you guys ever come here to the office to visit or whatever, getting in or getting out, you're going to see the two posters, the federal and the state poster, right there at the entrance, saying that we do not intend to discriminate against you. We don't intend, but we might discriminate a little bit, you know, because I like to pick on people, so I'll do it regardless, right? I have this Egyptian realtor here that one of these days he's going to sue me. But he laughs at the joke, so I'm not sure if he will. Every single time. All right, anyway. In addition to the... Mr. Mother is laughing. He keeps coming back. I don't know why. Anyway, in addition to provisions of the New Jersey law against discrimination, rentals in New Jersey are subject to the following regulations. So I can limit the amount of people that will live in my units because there's health regulations that limit the amount of people that can live in the units. For instance, if one of you decides to get pregnant, right, I cannot kick you out of the apartment because you got pregnant, but I can say, hey, you have X amount of months, for instance, to leave because I rented a 1-bedroom to 2 people, not 3. All right? And based on health regulations, you will surpass the limit. That's what it is. Brandon, I see the struggle there. Not easy. All right. Prospective tenants can be rejected if the landlord determines that they are unable to pay the rent based on their credit rating or income. This is the most common one. And make sure if you ever reject somebody, it's based on credit or based on income. Okay, lawful income. Okay. Members of the same sex must be accepted in a 1-bedroom apartment if the dwelling was it also available for members of the opposite sex? So you cannot discriminate against affectional orientation. It's a very simple rule. Whatever people do behind closed doors, that's their problem. Simple. As long as they pay the rent, that's it. They pay the rent and they maintain the property, that's it. Whatever their personal activities are, behind closed doors, their problem. That's what Jersey says. Okay, and like I said, if you decide to get pregnant, I cannot say, hey, lease is over because you're pregnant. Get out. I cannot say that. So you are protected. If this ever happens to you or to anyone that you know, okay, you are protected. Subject to, again, where was it? Subject to health regulations and the limit of the number of people that can be in the unit, right? So I can get you out, but I have to give you enough notice and explain why. Not just, hey, you got pregnant, get out. No, can't do that. Landlords may not sexually harass a tenant. And service dogs must be allowed even in places and dwellings where pets are not allowed. So if it's a service dog, we have to accept it, okay? But I can also charge for damage caused by the service dog. I cannot charge for a pet deposit if it's a service dog. Okay, we're not talking about emotional support. We're talking about service dogs, okay? Another thing, when the complex consists of 25, so if the building consists of 25 or more apartments, the owner is required to file an annual report. So if it's 25 or more. Sorry, 1 second. Max occupancy usually on rental contracts. My contracts, yeah. Some people forget to include that, right? Not only that, I'm going to list the people that are allowed to be there. Simple. All right. Next, when a complex consists of 25 or more apartments, the owner is required to provide an annual report, like I said, 25 or more, an annual report that covers the tenant's racial makeup and the owner's means of advertising and responding to inquiries. What we're saying here is simple. They're not saying you discriminate, but as the example I always give, if you live in an Hispanic community or that building is located in a Hispanic community, what is most likely going to be the composition of the tenants? What type of tenants are we going to have? Most likely of Hispanic origin, because that's what's around, right? What they want to know is that in your advertisement, you're not advertising strictly to people that are of Hispanic descent. They want to know that your advertisement is broad. It's just that, hey, you are in the predominantly Hispanic area, so most likely these are the people that will occupy the building. Okay, so again, they want to make sure you are not advertising to particular groups or rejecting particular groups. That responding to inquiries would be rejecting particular groups. That's all they want to know. And this is mainly when you have 25 or more units in that building. Tara's asking, so can you advertise on the Spanish website? You can. All we're trying to say, Tara, and everybody else, all we're trying to say is that if you're advertising in Spanish, right, make sure you're not limiting by not advertising in English. The only required advertisement is English. Can you advertise in Spanish? Sure. But you have to have the English as well because it has to be available to everybody, regardless of their race, color, religion, national origin, gender, familial status. You guys understand? So this is where the restrictions are. Can I advertise? Sure. I advertise in the Portuguese newspaper. Not a problem. Right? But I also have to advertise everywhere else. Simple. Pick battles. Pick battles. You want to just solely Hispanics? If that's what you really want, well, it's going to sort itself out because once you advertise in English, right? There are certain people that might say, no, I don't want to live in that area. I want to live in the other area. So it filters that way, right? What if somebody wants to live within a Hispanic, non-Hispanic wants to live within a Hispanic community? We can't restrict. Simple as that. What if Hispanics don't want to live in the Hispanic community? Right? I don't live in the Ironbound. I used to. I don't live in the Ironbound anymore. I don't live with the Portuguese. I deal with them because my partner is Portuguese, so I still have to deal with some Portuguese people. You know, that's what it is. You guys get it? So not everybody. The point is, Tina almost came to the camera. She's like, "What? What is he saying?" The point is, my partner says no comments. The point is, you cannot assume or presume. That's one of the things. Assume or presume that a particular group of people wants to mingle with that same group of people. Maybe they want to be in different areas. The same way that you have to make sure it's open, like your mind is open when dealing with a particular customer, right? Your advertisement also has to be broad. That's all. Okay? Next. Portuguese people are tough to deal with. That's all I'm saying. Tina, you got so small. What happened? Did you just sit on top of your baby? Oh, behind you. The angle of the camera looked like you were sitting directly on top of him. Anyway, Mount Laurel. Mount Laurel. Has anybody ever heard of Mount Laurel? Okay, not the town, the lawsuit. Have you heard of Mount Laurel, the lawsuit? Okay, some yes. Okay, great. Let's go over this. Back in the 1960s, so in 1960s, a rural town in New Jersey, Mount Laurel, began developing housing specifically for middle and upper class. Right? While this was happening, the town also began condemning substandard homes that were occupied by poor families who could not afford the new expensive homes. The approval to build affordable apartments for these displaced families were denied. Now, Mount Laurel's mayor said, if the families could not afford to live here, they should leave the town. That's pretty much what they said. Consequently, a group of citizens and the NAACP filed a class action lawsuit against Mount Laurel. In 1975, in response to the lawsuit, New Jersey Supreme Court ruled that all municipalities had to have zoning that allowed enough housing. So they had to have zoning that allowed enough housing for people with all levels of income, including low and moderate income. So this decision barred exclusionary zoning. Okay? Exclusionary zoning is zoning where you're excluding people or groups of people. Exclusionary, excluding, right? So back in 1975, that was the end of that lawsuit. 8 years later, Mount Laurel, like our kids, nobody listens, right? Mount Laurel got sued again. Mount Laurel got sued again. In that second lawsuit, Supreme Court ruled that every municipality must provide for their fair share of regional need for all levels of housing. Pretty much what we're saying is the poor cannot be excluded. The poor cannot be excluded from residential areas. Okay? So every single municipality has to provide for the fair share of regional needs for all housing, all levels of housing income, right? Okay. Next we have NAR. NAR and HUD. So can anybody tell me what NAR means? NAR? All right, we got quite a few people watching on YouTube. If you guys have questions, drop them in the chat. NAR, correct. National Association of Realtors. National Association of Realtors. Very good. What about HUD? What does HUD mean? Housing and Urban Development. Great. So look, NAR is a private entity and HUD is a federal entity. Okay? NAR created a code for equal opportunity. So within the code of ethics that we have to follow, there's a code for equal opportunity. We have to, as realtors, if you're a member of NAR, you have to follow the rules of equal opportunity, right? But they created a partnership. Realtors said, the National Association of Realtors said, hey, HUD, we need you, and you kind of need us because we're out here, right? So we pledge, that's what the NAR said, we pledge to train our brokers, and in turn, the brokers will train the salespeople and the broker salespeople and so on. So we pledge to train them in exchange for, obviously, certain benefits, right? So it's an exchange here. Now, in this partnership, we are not required to sign anything saying, hey, I'm a realtor and I promise, right? We're not going to go, I'm a realtor and I promise that I will do this, that I will do that. No, you don't have to do that. No, don't have to. The problem is if you don't, you could lose your license. So we don't need to sign, right here, we don't need to sign any document. But if you don't follow it, you're violating the code of ethics for and fair partnership for NAR, and they could enforce restrictions and lose your license. Sorry, I just got a message from Jen. I'm telling you, love it. I'm driving and I can't answer now. Don't want to get pulled over. The best message, I'm telling you. Like the other day, right? I'm driving, can't answer now. Like, but you are answering. Gotta have fun. Well, I'll let you know. I'm driving. I don't want to get pulled over. Meanwhile, whoop, whoop. Like that message just cost you $200. Anyway, advertising discrimination. The purpose of real estate advertising is to describe property being sold or leased and not to describe the people who should buy or lease the property. So again, your advertisements should be directed at the property, not the people that should be leasing the property. So, buying or leasing. Because the law prohibits direct or indirect discrimination in advertising, the licensee should be especially careful to comply with real estate laws when creating and posting ads to sell or lease the property. If you guys remember, under the national portion of this book, there were some links, and I told you to go to those links and study what you can do before you can market. So this is not for the state exam as much, because we already covered those anyway. But it's more when you go advertise in the future. Here's some examples of what you can say, not say, and so on. But again, we covered this under federal already. Right? Leases. All right, general requirements for a lease. One of the things is that it tells you the business relationship that you are in. Can you guys tell me examples of business relationships? In case I haven't drilled enough. Types of business relationships. I said business relationship. Brandon just repeated whatever Ahmed said yesterday. Broker to broker, deal with it. Joel says landlord and tenant. Tara says broker to salesperson. Business relationships. Let me give you a hint. Let's see if you can get it from here. Anybody? No? Tara says lessor to lessee. Funny. Joel, we're getting there. We're getting somewhere. What are the types of business relationship, guys? Come on. I know you guys are already thinking about the turkey and the food coma that comes after the Thanksgiving and all that stuff. I know that's where you are, right? But work with me. I give you another hint. In this case, landlords, agents. Anybody? Oof, tough crowd today. Should have switched my water for vodka or something. All right, we're getting some dead in the water. Kara, you were doing so great. And then dead in the water. So Tara wrote seller's agent, buyer's agent. What else do we have? Not listing agent, okay? Because that will be, you're dealing with a seller. So you already said seller's agent, that already covers it. Daniela, thank you. You added one more. Thank you. Transaction. I'll put it here. And sorry, Ed, you were kind of right. You just missed one thing that Daniela just posted. Very, very important. Disclosed dual agent. All right, guys, this is key. Every time we see business relationship, when we're talking about, in this case, a lease, it could be a listing, a sale. When we're talking about business relationship, we're talking about agency. Am I representing the seller or landlord? Am I representing the buyer or tenant? Am I representing both? Or am I representing neither one of them? You guys remember this? Kinda? Okay. Haven't we been talking about this whole week? Right? Yeah, I know. Whole week. Gotta remember, there's no listing agent, there's no buying agent here, right? Like, because it could be any of these. When you go present to the client or customer the types of relationships, you don't say listing agent, you say seller's agent or landlord's agent. Okay? Buyer's agent, disclosed Sorry, missing a E right there. Disclosal agent or transaction broker. So every lease must include the business relationship that the licensee will have with the landlord and prospective tenants named in the lease. What type of relationship do we have, right? There must be acknowledgement of the receipt of this consumer information statement that explains all this stuff we just went over. A binding contract statement that says this is a legally binding lease that will become final within 3 business days. Have we seen this before? Have you guys seen this before? Something like this? Yeah. But instead of lease, it said contract. Right? It's the same statement that has to be on top of every contract. It's a legally binding lease or a legally binding contract, and it will become final within 3 business days. So, if within 3 business days you don't review with an attorney, right? If within the 3 business days you don't disapprove of the contract, then it becomes binding. But when do the 3 business days start counting? When do the 3 business days start counting? Well, yes, the cooling off period. Perfect. When both parties have it in hand. Okay? What do they have in hand? I have something in my hand, you have something in your hand. Mr. Badur is like pulling teeth, man. You cannot give me the whole answer. He's like, hey, I'm giving bits and pieces, right? Little suspense, keep you entertained, right? So, when we have the signed agreement, thank you, Brandon. When we have a signed agreement, and Joel as well, when it's in both of our hands, with both signatures on it, valid signatures, because you're saying that it's in both of our hands like you did, right? You wrote, when both parties have it in hand. I have a copy of my offer. You have a copy of the offer I gave to you. What does this mean? Until I get your copy back with your signature, right? It's not valid. So I'm just trying to make sure you guys understand and remember these things, that it is that tricky. So not having the full sentence, right, will affect you later on. Okay, so I know you don't have to apologize. I know you knew the answer, right? It's just that you have to be more specific so it registers in your brain and everybody else's. Very, very important. Okay? Also, because it's frustrating trying to decipher what you want to say, man. Just kidding. All right. Statute of frauds. We just went over this in chapter 28. So if it's a lease of 3 years or longer, it must be in writing. So we cover that. Standard lease provisions. Let's go to this. Standard lease provisions. Leases, whether oral or written, have provisions that cover both the landlord and the tenant's requirements. Having all adults who will live in the rental unit sign the lease will make each legally responsible. So, Mr. Badur, when you asked me about having the number of people there, right? This is what I do. You got to make sure, like here, whoever's going to occupy, everybody signs, so they're each legally responsible for all of the lease provisions or terms. The lease has to include the term of the tenancy, so how long it's going to last, right? If if it's a month to month or if it's a specific duration, right? The term, the length of time, the rent payment, how much you're going to pay. Here's an exception for New Jersey leases. Ready? Here's an exception for New Jersey leases. Rent payment. There's a grace period with rent payment. Not everybody gives a grace period, and in fact, No lease requires a grace period. Only for certain groups, you must give a 5-day grace period. Only for certain groups. So technically, the due date is the end of the month. So by the 1st, you should have paid already, or you're late. Right? That's what we say right here. The grace period, however, it's not a requirement, but if you do include in your lease a grace period, it's contractual, it's not obligation. If you don't include in the lease a grace period, just know that if somebody is on Social Security, if somebody's on a government retirement pension, you got to give 5-day grace period. Got to give them a 5-day grace period. Okay, this only happens for people on Social Security, government pensions, or anything like that. Okay. Security deposit. State of New Jersey says New Jersey law allows only 1.5 month rent as a deposit. Other states might say 3 months. Jersey says the max that you can charge as a deposit is 1.5. That's the max that you can charge as security deposit. So Cheryl, if you're watching this, you know that in New York is a little different. Just want to point it out. Jersey is 1.5 month security deposit. The security deposit, and this must be listed also in the lease. So these are lease provisions. The security deposit must state what it is for. So usually it's to compensate for final repairs and also loss in a loss of rent. So we covered this in the national portion already. Jersey says you got to return the security deposit within 30 days of the lease expiration, minus deductions for itemized damages. Okay? And these deductions do not include normal wear and tear. So what we're saying here is very simple. You gave me $1,000 deposit, I cannot give you back $0 deposit. I have to explain how I used the money. Well, it was $200 for this, it was $300 for that. Sarah, what are you apologizing for? I'm sorry, I don't know. And so on. All right. Now, failure to do so results in the landlord owing double the amount of deposit to the tenant. Another thing that's a requirement is the earned interest rate. Hold on. Daniela's disinfecting a valid reason for a deduction of deposit because of pets? I didn't read the whole thing, but I was like, disinfecting. Okay, 2020, I get it. All right. But no, it's pets, not COVID. Got it. Is disinfecting a valid reason? It depends. How much damage? What type of pets? How many pets did you have? Right? It depends. So it could be a reason. Yes. It's not normal wear and tear. Like not everybody has pets. I'm allowing you to have a pet, but I might charge you an additional deposit fee for that. So if I didn't charge you, the deposit fee, then I'll deduct from the regular fee. So yeah, there's a possibility. It depends. Tina, doesn't that have to be on the lease? Usually the lease will say no pets. Or the lease will say pets okay with the owner's permission, right? The landlord's permission. And then it will also have exclusions or inclusions regarding pets. So it should be stated, correct. Okay? But then again, how much was the disinfecting fee? You don't have to type. My point is, how much was the disinfecting fee? Was it $500? Was it $1,000? Is it something substantial that you can take them to court and say, wait a minute, it doesn't cost that much to disinfect, right? That's why Jersey says itemized deductions. I need to know what you spent my money on. That's what we're saying here, okay? So if you feel, Daniela, if you feel that that disinfecting fee was too much, 400, okay? If you feel that it was, I don't know the size of the apartment. I have no idea how much it costs to disinfect after a pet left, right? But if you feel that it's too much, again, it's not normal wear and tear. That's the only thing that we're allowed to exclude from the deposit, right? Normal wear and tear is, look, there's a wall, and if there's smudges on the wall, it's normal. We rub against the wall, we put furniture, it's normal. If there's a carpet, and the carpet is faded because people walk in and out, that's normal wear and tear. I cannot charge you for that. Now, if you have a pet that ripped the carpet or peed on the carpet or something like that, now I can charge you for that. You see what I'm saying? So it's not normal things. If it's something out of the ordinary, then can I charge? Possibly. Tina, how about hanging things on the wall? Okay. I don't know what things are. You can hang a lot of stuff depending on what you're hanging on the wall, right? Pictures, TV, etc. Well, pictures, paintings, and stuff like that. Usually, it's just. I mean, how many are? I saw a house once that it was like a Swiss cheese. There's so many holes. I guess they had a lot of pictures and paintings. A TV is not normal, so yes, I'm going to deduct the installation of the TV. It's not normal, right? Not normal wear and tear. If it's a pinhole on the wall because of you put a painting, I'm not going to charge you $500 because I have to cover a pinhole for that painting or picture, right? Tina says we patched all the holes, but my landlord was crazy. I don't know what to tell you. Landlord was crazy. What did the landlord charge you for? Is there a rule about painting whenever you get a new tenant or certain? I think you asked that already before. And no. I have to maintain the apartment, yes. I have to maintain the apartment, yes. That's it. The only requirement, especially in New Jersey, we're going to go over that. The only requirement in New Jersey is that the apartment is in habitable condition. Do I have to paint after? Do I have to repaint after someone moves? If it's in good condition, I don't. But you asked me this question. You asked me this question. When you moved in, the landlord had to paint. Why? Because the previous tenant did not restore the property to original condition. You left. Your responsibility usually in the lease usually says that you have to return the property in the same condition that you found. That's your responsibility, with the exception of wear and tear. I'm not required to paint because you moved. Nope. The super told you that they repaint every time someone moves, so you thought it was a requirement? No, that's their rules and regulations. Okay? But again, you got to look at the lease. I think I mentioned that too. You got to look at the lease if there's any requirement there. But usually, okay, usually the requirement is that you, the tenant, restore the property to its original condition. Period. Okay. In some places that you go to, there already includes a fee that you pay up front. You include a fee that you pay up front that you don't have to worry. When you leave, don't worry. We got you. They don't call it a security deposit. They call it something else, and everybody can do different. If I ask for a security deposit and stress-free warranty type of thing, or guarantee that when you leave, we'll take care of everything. Don't worry about it. Okay? It depends on where you go. All right. So, Tina. You're required to take care of and maintain. This is New Jersey law, for instance. What the tenant is required to repair and maintain. So you have to see what's in the lease that says what you're required to repair and maintain. Okay? Again, as I was saying before, the only thing that the landlord's required, okay, is to maintain the property in habitable condition. All right, Tara, I have a question about the landlords. Do they have to make every apartment livable? For instance, for handicap? Okay. State exam question. The answer, real quick. So I'm going to repeat the question for you guys. The question was, I have a question about the landlord. Do they have to make every apartment livable? For instance, for handicap. Okay. ADA requires us to deal with people with disabilities and not discriminate, right? ADA requires in commercial properties only that we adapt to tenants if it's reasonably achievable and at low cost. For residential, listen, for residential, I don't have to. But if I choose to, I can relay the cost to you. Okay? So, in residential, 1 to 4 family, do I have to make it wheelchair accessible? The answer is no. Commercial, do I have to make it wheelchair accessible? The answer is yes, if it's at low cost. I have to destroy walls, and I have to create ramps where there never existed, and I have to create a pathway that never existed. No, I'm not required either. Okay? So these are a few things. There's going to be a question there, and that's why I said when we talk about ADA, Americans with Disability Act, I was clear that it's for commercial property, people with disabilities in commercial property, not residential. Does not apply to residential. Okay? All right, we cover all this. ADA, right here. It's on page 462. So we're just repeating. This is a federal law, not state law. Okay, federal law, not state law. Okay. Title 3 right here. Same thing. It's just repeating from when we talked about in the national portion. Right? It says here, public accommodations or commercial buildings. Not residential. It doesn't talk about residentials at all. Okay? So I'm required to make changes like adding ramps, widen doorway openings, modify public restrooms. Again, everything public. Ensure the elevators work properly, etc. However, even in commercial, and I'm repeating this again, owners are not required to do extensive, costly structural changes because ADA allows for reasonable accommodations. Okay. Ahmed, must it say reasonable or else it's incorrect choice? It won't say reasonable. I mean, it could, but when we say reasonable, it's something that's easy to do. For instance, installing a ramp. Sometimes it's easy to do. Marking the parking space for handicap. It's easy to do. Braille markings on elevators is easy to do. So if it's something that's easy, we call it reasonably achievable. If it's something that's going to make me costly structural changes, it's going to cost a lot of money. I'm not required to do. I don't have to retrofit my whole building to meet the needs of one person with this. And this is not discrimination. What we're just saying is you cannot force everybody to change that because of one person, right? So if it's easy, why wasn't it done? That's the only question, okay? If it was low cost, why wasn't it done? That's the only question. So Tara says, I got that wrong on the exam. Okay. But I knew that was a state exam question. See? Cheryl has a question. I'm waiting. Thanks, Tara. I just cannot give you the exact questions and the exact answers. That's the only thing I can tell you. I can give you all the hints. Because again, passing the exam is not what's going to make you a good realtor. So you still need to become a good realtor after that. So I'm going to help you get to the next step. To help you make it. That's it. Cheryl, you put a question mark. Do you have a question? I'm just waiting before I move forward. Just want to make sure. All right, so no questions. All right, rent control. State of New Jersey has no rent control. That's it. Rent control is established by individual municipalities. That's it. It's not the state mandated rent control, it's individual municipalities. So each municipality has their own rules when it comes to rents. That's what you got to remember. Okay? Right? This, guys, you guys remember. All right. Right at the bottom of page 463, it says New Jersey Anti-Eviction Act. Only because everything else is federal. New Jersey Anti-Eviction Act was signed into law in 1974, requires reasonable grounds for eviction and suitable notice to tenants. So you cannot evict just because, right? A landlord cannot arbitrarily evict a tenant without first obtaining a court order. So if you want to get rid of a tenant, the only way to do it, whatever the reason might be, the only way to do it is through court order. Very important. A court officer must provide a tenant a copy of the order for removal at least 3 days prior to the actual removal. So notice, hey, get out. Before filing an eviction suit, the landlord must serve the tenant with a notice to quit or notice to cease and desist, right? Detailing the cause for eviction and the date on which to vacate. Time requirements for the notice depend on the cause. So 3 days if it's disorderly conduct or property destruction, 1 month for breaking the rules in a lease, 2 months for the landlord to move into the unit, 3 months for the landlords to shut down or demolish the building, 18 months for the landlord to retire the building from residential use. So converting for commercial or something else, okay? The landlord may not evict the tenant except for one of the following good causes: failure to pay the rent, no notice required, by the way. Okay? So if you fail to pay, the rent, okay, then I can take you straight to court. I don't have to say, hey, just in case you don't remember, rent was due yesterday, right? I don't have to give you that notice. I can go straight to court. That's what it says. All right, hold on. Cheryl says there's a long delay. You asked for my question, and I had finished typing 2 minutes ago. But I never got the question, Cheryl. All right, and to figure out the delay real quick, Cheryl, it's 7:20 right now. So let me know when you get this message. It's 7:20 right now. And everybody else, I just want to make sure the delay is not me, or if it is, I need to correct it. All right, so back to this. These are the reasons. These are the good causes to evict a tenant. Okay? Good causes. Very important. Illegal eviction. That's why I'm going here. Illegal eviction. New Jersey is a criminal offense, and New Jersey law prohibits the following: self-help evictions by the landlords with no court order. So, like you're getting there and you're locking out the tenants, changing the locks, shutting down utilities, or threatening a tenant. It's illegal in New Jersey. I don't know about other states. Maybe New York is a little different. You know, Brooklyn and all, they might have different attitude when it comes to eviction. But in New Jersey, you cannot kick somebody out, change the locks, or anything like that. Okay, look right here. So Ruth and Tara, you guys are 7:20. So when I said it, okay, perfect. If a tenant remains in a rental unit after notifying the landlord of the intent to vacate, the landlord can charge the tenant double rent. You guys remember, if the landlord does not give you the security deposit back, right? If they don't give it back, or if they don't fully itemize why they took the money, they are liable for double the deposit. Well, tenants, you said you were going to leave and you haven't left, I can literally charge you double the rent. That's what it says here. Okay. You guys have any questions? Any questions you'd like to address? Try and see if I get an answer from Cheryl as well. All right. No questions. So, guys, with that being said, we're going to go into a quick break. It's 7:23. We're going to be back at 7:35. Okay, so you got 12 minutes. And we'll see you guys in a little bit. All right. Thank you. YouTubers, I'm going to end this session. I'll bring another one right up.